Hello and welcome, with apologies for a very late posting of our this week's Sedra Parsha, which is Vayeira, featuring a gem of the Alshich. No real excuse, just was very busy. Okay, this is a Parsha which is so jam-packed full with incredible incidents, incredible episodes that really deserve serious investigation. It's hard to know where to choose, from three angels appearing to Avraham at the beginning of the Parsha, after the third day of his Bris Milah, to the warning and the dramatic destruction of Sodom, Sarah laughing. There's so much here. But I thought it'd be interesting to take one highlight, and indeed the pinnacle, according to almost every opinion, of Avram's journey and the tests that he had, the 10 tests that he had to experience in order to become Avram Avinu, Avram our father, and that those qualities that he would achieve through that process would be passed on to us as the defining nature and character traits of his children, of the Jewish people. And of course, the 10th test, the ultimate test, one opinion called Vayeira says it wasn't the ultimate test, and we'll do that next week, I'm sure. But according to everybody, apart from Vayeira, then the ultimate test was the binding of Isaac, and the commandment, Kach no es binecho es yichidecho, take now your son, your only son, Sherahata, whom you love, and offer him as a sacrifice to me, which would require trusting him, putting him on top of a pyre, cutting his throat, and making sure that the wood burned with enough fierceness and for enough time to completely reduce his body to a crisp. Pretty horrific stuff, and a huge topic which could never fit into a feature which is called a gem of the Alshich. This would have to be a necklace full of jewels to explain it properly. However, let's see if we can feature that, or have an investigation of one of the parts of it. And I remember at the beginning, Avram was told to take Yitzchak, and he go, etc. I'm just moving to the most dramatic part of all, when he's literally about to carry out the commandment. He takes the knife in his hand, and he's stretching it forth to kill his son. Okay. So that's for those who are following it. We're, as usual, looking at it in our art scroll. Oh, I should get art scroll to sponsor this year, you know that? Anyway, it's in chapter Kov Beis, in Parshas, that's chapter 22 in Parshas, and where's a good place to start? We'll start at Pasuk 9, that's Tes. It says, "Vayavo el Elokim asher Omar lo Elokim," and they came to the place which God had told them about. V'yiven sham Avram es mizbech, and Avram builds there an altar. V'yarach es ha'etzim, he arranges the wood. The wood's going to have to burn fiercely and long enough to turn his son to a crisp. V'yakoid es Yitzchak benoi, and he yakoid, and he ties. Trusses, that's the wrists and the ankles tied together at the back. And he lifts them onto the Mizbeach on top of the wood. Vayishlach Abram es yodai, and Abram stretches forth his hand. Vayikach es machelas, and he takes the knife. Nishkad is about to slaughter his son. Vayikra elav malach HaShem, and an angel of God calls out to him and says, Minashma, from heaven, Avram twice, and he says, here I am, or Hineni can be also translated, I'm ready to do what you tell me. Don't stretch your hand to the lad, and don't do anything to him. Now I know, says God, that you are God-fearing. Good, inasmuch as you didn't withhold your son from me. That's the thing. Now, we've mentioned before in our journey through the Parshas, the previous Parshas, that of course every word counts, and every word is analysed by the Alshich. And one of the crucial words here is the word that defines God. But in this pasuk that we just read, there were two of them. There was the name Yud He Vav He, the four-letter name of God, which we say we don't pronounce. Instead, we say Adonai, which means my master. And then there's the other word which means Elohim, which has got three definitions in Judaism. It can mean a judge that sits in a position of power. It can mean an idol, Elohim, and it can, of course, refer to God as well, who is the source of all power. So we use, with reference to God here, as well as the other name, Yud Kei Vav Kei Adonai. Now, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei refers to God being merciful, and Elohim means being very strict. So let's look at this again. So I'm really going to focus on just verse 11. So verse 11 it says, and we'll read this a little bit more slowly than I did before, Vayikra Elov Malach HaShem in Hashemayim, dramatic moment, and the angel of God calls out from heaven. Vayom, it says, Avraham, Avraham. So the Alshich asks here the obvious question, was Avram deaf? Clearly not. Hard of hearing? Well, he was an old man. But you see, it doesn't matter if you're totally stone deaf, if you've never had hearing in your life. If God calls out to you, you're going to hear. So why does he have to call up to him twice? Avraham, Avraham. And if you look, I can show you this where my finger is there. If I hold up, I can see that. Avraham, Avraham. Can you see that? Ugh. Hold on, I'm not doing it very well. Yeah, Avraham, Avraham. Can you see the Avraham, Avraham just above my finger? See that line there? That interruption between them, which is part of our tradition, to have that line there. Why is there a line there? And again, we've got, well, let's start at Tess again. And remember it says, when we started to read this, V'yavo el Mokum, which Omerlach Elohim, but he is the first name of God, went to the place that Elohim had told him to go. He builds there the altar. He's about to do it. And when he takes the knife in his hand, Vayikra Malach HaShem, an angel of God, Yud He Vav He, it says there, one name of God, the merciful one. And he says, don't do anything to him. Don't stretch out your hand, because now I know you are Yira Elohim, the fear of Elohim, different name of God. Okay, so this is what the Alshich says, just to get us straight in there. And I want to tell you, add a little bit by pointing us in the direction of Rabbi Dessler, and that should complete us for this Shabbos. So basically, the Alshich says, why does he Avram, Avram? He called him Avram twice, and then this line in between. So ask a simple question. This is the ultimate test, according to most people, of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu has fulfilled every requirement of him up till now, and this is obviously going to be the biggest challenge of all. So the Avram once and Avram twice being called, or called twice by God, but God doesn't need to call twice, so why is it twice? And then it's this line in between. Who would you say is greater, the Avram before he passed the test, or the Avram after he passed the test? I think the answer is obviously after you pass the test. And of course, as the Alshich discusses, why does God give a test at all? God knows the future. He knows Avram's going to pass the test, so what's the point in giving him the test? It's a question we can ask in all of us when we're tested in life, when God sends circumstances which we'd really not rather have experienced. Let's say he's testing us, but he knows we're going to pass the test, so why does he test us? No, he knows, but you don't know. The passing of a test in itself is an introduction to you, to an aspect of you that you might never ever see. So God gives Avram the test, and of course he's the greater Avram after he passes the test than before he passes the test. So there's a line in between to separate the two Avrams. Avraham, Avraham. Avram before and Avram subsequent. He's now reached a new level. Don't stretch your hand and don't do anything to him, because now I know you're God-fearing. So I've got to tell you something Rabbi Dessler says, not usual for us in this particular scenario, to deviate from the Alshich, but I'm going to do it anyway. The Alshich points out all the tests of Avraham Avinu were tests which challenged his fear of God. His love of God was his nature. It was natural. He was the Baal Chesed. He was the one who wanted to do kindness to everybody, to bring them close to God. He loved God. That came naturally. Fearing God, that's something which is more of a challenge. So when, for example, the first test of Avraham Avinu is to leave his father alone for 60 years and go to a new land, go to the land of Israel, as it will one day be called. Wow, that's not easy to do, to leave your own father, your old father alone for 60 years. He's got a big chunk of life still left. He could be with his father, and he loves his family. See, the problem, if you love God, if that's the basis of your connection, your relationship with God, is you love God, what happens if there's a clash of loves? What if there's something else you love? Suppose you love your father. Then would love be enough to get you to do what God wanted you to do when there's another love? Two competing loves? No, so therefore it would have to be that you go because of fear of God. Interestingly, the Medrash says, Medrash Yalkut Shimoni, when Avraham is told by God to do the mitzvah of Bris Milah, he replied, I'd rather not have that mitzvah. I'd rather not do it. Why? Because up to now his whole purpose and mission in life, or murpose, as I tried to say there, his mission and purpose in life is in order to bring people close to belief and knowledge of God. And apparently his banquet, and it was a banquet, every meal they invited people to was more sumptuous than the than the meal of Shlomo HaMelech at the height of his powers. So you can imagine the beautiful wine, the beautiful food, wonderful conversation, tremendous insights into spiritual matters, which are inspirational to his guests. But now, at the end of the conversation, oh, there's one other little thing I have to talk to you about. That in completing this process, you'll have to have major surgery on the most vulnerable part of your body without anesthetic. No, thank you. And they dash. He said, I'd rather not have that, Hashem said. Here's the language of the Midrash. It's enough that I'm your God. In other words, do it because I'm telling you to do it. Oh, it doesn't appeal to you? It doesn't appeal to the man who's the kind man, the man who loves God? This will not help you and aid you in your mission. In fact, it'll be a huge hindrance. Logically right. But still do it because I'm telling you. So the end of this process, then it says, don't stretch your hand to the lad, but altas lo don't do anything to him. Ki ata yadati, because now I know ki yira Elokim ato, that you fear God Elokim, not Yud Kei Vav Kei. That defines a relationship, a loving relationship with God. But one out of fear. He needs to have a relationship with a balance of love of God and fear of God. The love was easy. The whole 10 tests was to make him have fear of God as well. And with that healthy balance, that means that the love of God relationship will never be cancelled out by love of anything else, even the love of his son, his only son, Isaac. Why just not have a relationship with fear? Because if you do it only because you're scared, then there's no spontaneity, there's no sincerity. Somebody's holding a gun to your head. Therefore, it has to be a balance of both, a synthesis of both. By this test, by the 10th test, Avraham has synthesized love of God and fear of God, and been introduced to a whole new Avraham, the one he didn't know until he passed the test. The one that God did know lay there and could be liberated. The one that Avraham was totally unaware of until he passed the test. I think that applies to us as well. So often we have no idea of strengths and talents and gifts and courage that we possess until we're in situations where we can be able to recognize and call on those strengths and courage and talents and gifts that we didn't realize. And then you know who you are. And there's going to be a line separating the old you to the new you. Shalom Aleichem to the new you. Good jobs.